the laziest media story is when you search. You go to Twitter, you search, you find someone saying something that supports your story. You're like, Twitter user XYZ said this. You use that as evidence of like his overall thing. The Chinese state media is searching on Twitter, finding someone who's like, yeah, the U.S. government, they think it's propaganda. We don't believe that. We want to go to China. It's like, okay, are all these users giving a middle finger to the U.S. government about TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
they
sure
are.
What is hard to grok if you're not in the U.S. is that is the U.S.
Freedom in action, baby.
That's
Here
right.
We are.
Our whole birthright is about giving the middle finger to the government, and they can't do anything about it. This goes back to the whole ban. The part of the whole context of the whole ban Trump from social media in 2020 that was actually, I think, even hard for Europeans to understand is this idea that in Europe the government is always on top. And so the government determines what speech is allowed or not. And corporations operate in that context underneath the government. In the U.S., corporations are an equivalent institution to the government. The government can't tell them what to do. They can't, in the First Amendment context, it's not just that they can't say what they can't say. They can't say you can't moderate because it's their own platform. They can do what they want. The idea is that the freedom of speech is above both. And the government operates under it, and the companies operate under it, and that can go in either direction. They can allow free speech, they can disallow free speech, and the government can't tell them to do one or the other. And it's like, where in the stack are they? In the U.S., they're on equivalent things, and so part of the case was, well, there's a tradition of corporations acting as one of these institutions, as a power broker, as like when you talk about the balance of powers in the U.S. Constitution between the executive branch and the judicial branch. And the legislative branch, actually, the U.S. as a whole is a balance of powers. And
look, I mean, you made the point on the Xiao Hongshu thing. Like, I was actually jealous that I didn't think of that before Bill and I recorded Sharp China earlier this week. The surge of young people going to Xiao Hongshu and crapping all over the American government is such a great testament to the American system.
No, it is. They're like, oh, look at these people don't listen to American propaganda.
Proves it's all failing.
You're getting propagandized so hard right now, and you don't even realize it, right? That's effective propaganda.
Well,
a bunch of U.S. citizens.
A bunch of U.S. citizens.
Oh no, Xiao Hongshu is screwed. So we get like all these citizens going online and bitching about the U.S. government is this incredibly powerful testament to the American system that is like, it's precisely because the Chinese don't even see it is how effective it is. People going on and like you and me making it explicit, that's not effective. And everyone sees that's propaganda. This is real propaganda. It's in the water. It's not like it's not a billboard. It's in the water. And all these people going on Xiao Hongshu and saying, hi, nice to meet you, ni hao, blah, blah, blah. It is one of the most effective American propaganda actions in ages. It's amazing.
Right. Well, and the juxtaposition is really powerful because obviously on one hand, you have Americans who are now free to curse out our government and publicly pledge their allegiance to China, and they'll suffer no consequences. Yep. But a Chinese digital media outlet earlier this week, I think it's PC Online, they were talking about the implications for Xiao Hongshu and the influx of Americans. Because just for people who don't know, mainland apps in China, if they are marketing abroad, they'll typically develop a entirely separate platform for international audiences. Xiao Hongshu did not do that. It did not intend to. It didn't really have ambitions to expand internationally. And so the influx of Americans was described as a Damocles sword hanging over the company. And the outlet said the risks here far outweigh the opportunities because there's just going to be immense pressure and possibly consequences from the government if they're not censoring all these Americans sufficiently.
No, this is why it's going to end very soon. My prediction is within a week. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer because the risks to Xiao Hongshu are astronomical. They might try to moderate. Their moderation is going to be overwhelmed. This is an underappreciated aspect of censorship, by the way, and this actually ties back to our discussion last week. Censorship is at its most effective when people self-censor. Like that. That is how you get scale from censorship.
Right.
Yeah, you can have the Great Firewall. Yes, you can force all these social media companies to take people's accounts offline. But you add an I don't want to be banned. I don't want to have that worry. Like, am I going to get in trouble from the police, or am I going to lose my 1,000 followers? Right. And so people self-police. And that is how you actually get censorship at scale, is by activating people's self-preservation instinct, and you get self-censorship. Guess who is not going to self-censor?
Americans.
The people giving the middle finger to the government by using Xiaohongshu. And so there's a bit where even if they try to have some sort of moderation apparatus, it's like it's going to go sideways. They're like, and so they'll probably institute. They might withdraw from the U.S. app stores, or the thing I didn't mention, which they'll probably do, is institute. You need a Chinese phone number to register, and they'll force everyone to put in the phone number, and that will cut everyone off. And
or test the dedication of the TikTok refugees. You know, maybe you find a way to get a Shanghai phone number. And
it's not easy. It's not,
and
not. I would advise against that for lots of reasons.
Well, and to the point on Xiaohongshu, I mean, the creator of ByteDance no longer runs that company and disappeared for a while because ByteDance was censoring insufficiently.
No, they got called to the carpet. No,
I
wrote about this in the TikTok war. Yeah, they got called to the carpet for, and in this case, it was mostly because people were looking at too many pictures of what did we call it? NBA highlights.
Scantily clad league pass highlights. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
but
I think the whole thing's very. I think the whole thing's very funny. I think I think this is like, you don't want to get in a propaganda war with the U.S. again, because the problem with so much communist propaganda is it's way too literal. And U.S. soft power is U.S. soft power. It is our citizens giving the middle finger to the U.S. government, going on a Chinese app, colonizing it, and doing in the process being received. Oh, it's so great. Yeah, the U.S. government's bad, blah, blah, blah. And the entire subtext here is, look at us exercising our
Wouldn't
freedoms.
It be nice
yeah.
if we in Beijing could do that. Yeah.
And hey, the more exposure for U.S. people to, clean streets and functioning infrastructure, the better. So maybe it could be a two-way win, at least as long as it lasts.
No, absolutely. And I actually think it's a really cool example of cultural exchange that China has systematically prevented for the last 25 years.
Well, this is the last thing about the TikTok thing that I didn't get to. China started this. Like, this is a window into what we lost with the Great Wall, or the Great Firewall. I called it the Great Wall all the way through. Great Firewall is obviously what I'm referring to. And by the way, there's a very strong, leave aside the persuasion issues, the data issues. They block all our consumer internet companies. We should block theirs. Like, you can't have this is a whole problem with our whole trading regime is, we're pro free trade, but you have, like, if you don't have a tit for tat retaliation system and one side blatantly violates all their parts of it, you're going to end up in a bad place. This is the part and so, like, just from a pure sort of trading perspective, it's this is why it should have been done years ago. Like you just made it way more difficult by waiting till now.
Well, and speaking of borders, there was a part 2 to Saeed's email. He writes, to the extent